President Yoon Suk Yeol's state visit to the U.S. last week was more than a diplomatic event that celebrated 70 years of friendship between Seoul and Washington. It was more of a chance for the two allies also to expand their traditional security alliance to a cultural alliance. For more on this, we're joined by Mr. Bechervaise. He's a film critic and also a visiting professor at Korea University. Welcome back to the program.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Good morning. First off, what do you think was the most fruitful outcome in terms of culture and the media content industry from Yoon's state visit? How has South Korea proved itself during his trip in terms of K-culture being taken to a global level?
Well, yeah, obviously you've got the news that Netflix is investing $2 billion in Korean content, which is hugely significant. You know, they've announced over the last few years quite a lot of money that they've put into Kcontent since 2016. Well over $1 billion, and so this is not only is this a continuation of that, but we're seeing even more money pumped into the K-content industry, and I think we're going to see more shows following the success of Squid Game, of course, other series including The Glory. And I think it's interesting that Yoon Suk Yeol has kind of met the head of a American streaming giant. Not here, it's not a Korean streaming service, and over the past 3 decades, the Korean government has actively supported the local industry in various different ways. You've got the Korean Film Council, of course. And so what we have here is a Korean president in the United States meeting with effectively a United States or US studio. So now this also helps the Korean content industry in that obviously these are Korean shows. Where Netflix collaborate with Korean partners, Korean production companies. You've got Korean directors, Korean writers. So it does, of course, help the Korean industry. But I do think it goes to show how it's continued to evolve and how this is a kind of win-win, so to speak. It helps Netflix, but it also helps the K-content industry. Although, of course, there are issues with that, given the popularity of streaming services, with cinemas somewhat struggling at the moment.
Right, definitely a win-win situation there. Now, staying with President Yoon Suk Yeol, he also vowed to get rid of regulations on the culture and movie industries if they don't meet global standards. Now, what does that mean? I mean, what does it mean for K-content as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see how the K-content industry is continuing to evolve, and how you're looking at the global standards and also regulations, and I think at the moment there's been talk of looking at the film industry and how there are regulations involved to try. Well, there was talk of trying to add a cap on the number of screens the film was released on, although that never came to fruition because of the pandemic. But I think at the moment, I think it's there are various factors in play that have allowed the industry to succeed on the global stage, and I don't think there's much in the way of regulations that's preventing the Korean industry from performing very well domestically and internationally, but I think it's interesting that he's actually stated that.
Right, and let's also talk about the new investment deals. You briefly mentioned Netflix investing in Korea $2.5 billion for the next 4 years. Now, some watchers are saying that it's not enough. What do you think? Is it really not enough? How is the new investment deal notable in any way?
Well, I haven't actually read the reports that stated it wasn't enough. I think, looking now at maybe some of the issues with regards to this investment, I've touched on this, because, if you're investing $2.5 billion in Korean content, Netflix Korean content, that obviously puts Netflix in a very powerful position, and they're currently leading the industry. So, Korea's always had this somewhat ambivalent relationship, with the Hollywood kind of companies or studios. On the one hand, admiring content that's come out of the United States and certainly being influenced by American filmmakers, but on the other hand, wary of its presence. And I think Netflix is, such a massive presence in the industry. And in a sense, it's different compared to, a decade ago, where you've got American companies in Korea distributing American and in some cases Korean films, but not to the extent that's happening at the moment, on Netflix's streaming service. So I think there will be those in the industry that are somewhat worried about Netflix's presence and asking whether actually, whether this is a good thing for the Korean content industry. So, investing huge amounts of money in K-content, yes, that's a good thing. But it could also mean that, there might be some pushback from some local players who would argue that Netflix is getting too big and too quickly. Any healthy ecosystem will have, a variety of different players. And that is true at the moment. But the concern is that because there's so much money being invested in Korean shows, that you have this production bubble and it just inflates and inflates and then it just bursts. And that's kind of what happened in the mid to late 2000s in the Korean film industry, where there were just too many films being made, too much money being pumped into K movies, and there weren't enough, there wasn't enough money for those films to kind of generate revenue from cinema admissions, and as a result, the bubble burst. So I think there is a danger that would happen, and we'll have to wait and see. And I suspect what will happen is there'll be a consolidation. So a process of consolidation. We're in a kind of period of transition right now. So you're going to see, some of these big players. You've got Netflix, and there are also some big local players. You've got CJ. You've got the Jungan Group as well with Megabox and JTBC. And I imagine what will happen is you'll have the bigger players consuming some of the smaller players, or at least collaborating with them.
Right. Lots of exciting and collaborative projects that we all can look forward to.
I hope so. Yeah, there's quite a few coming out over the next few weeks. I mean, Netflix have got DP season 2. Season 1 was very well received when it was released just a few weeks before. Squid Game didn't take off internationally, but it was certainly a show that even politicians are talking about. So that's out this year. It deals with the military service. There's also Marskill, which is another Netflix show. There's a Bloody Lucky Day, which is a Paramount and TV series. Features what's about a taxi driver who comes up against a serial killer. That's directed by Pil Kam-sung, who made Hostage, Missing Celebrity. And so we're seeing a number of kind of Korean filmmakers working on Korean shows. There's Park In-jae, who is also a filmmaker. He's directing Moving, which is Disney Plus's big show, budgeted at 50 billion won, the most expensive show in K-content history. So lots going on. It's also worth mentioning films as well. You've got Yoo Seung-won's Smugglers that's coming out in the summer. You've got Kim Sung-eun's Ransomed that's also coming out this summer. It's shot in the Middle East, and that's continuing a trend that we've seen in the Korean film industry with films such as Point Men and Escape from Mogadishu that were set in that part of the world. We've got the Cannes films, of course. I haven't even mentioned those yet. We've got Project Silence that's screening in midnight, featuring Lee Sung-gun. I think that'll be quite interesting to see, kind of continuing this trend of disaster films in Korea following Exit and others as well. Emergency Declaration. There's Sleep as well, also starring Lee Sung-gun, and also Jung Yoo-mi. I'm really intrigued to see that, directed by Bong Joon-ho's former assistant Jason Kim. So I'm very very excited about the number of Korean films that are coming out over the next Korean films and also series, of course, that are coming out over the next few weeks. And of course, Kim Ji-yoon's Cobweb as well, which starring Song Kang-ho, set in the 1970s, and there are some similarities, I believe, to the director Kim Ki-young. So yeah, lots going on.
I thought I already had a long watch list, but thanks for adding some to my list on top of those.
Absolute pleasure. Always a pleasure to talk to you.
All right. Thank you so much for your insight this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you.